Hello, welcome to this episode of Success Tracks. And as we're doing these interviews, it's really interesting to hear all these different stories and journeys that people have taken. And it's especially interesting when you get to invite a friend on to share his experiences and his journey. And that's what we have in this interview that's coming up. I had a chance to sit down with a good friend of mine, Bob Collier, who has a business in North Carolina, Cary, North Carolina. It's Carolina Custom Video. And I've known him for a number of years. And it was a very enlightening interview. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that right after this message.
This episode is sponsored by Finding Light in the Darkness, A Caregiver's Guide by Rory Graham. If you are a caregiver and find yourself trying to navigate the medical minefield, you know it can be frustrating and sometimes challenging. This book can help you by providing tips and tricks to help you become a better advocate and reduce your stress as well. Order your copy today on Amazon and other fine booksellers, or get an autographed copy at www.rorygraham.com. Order today.
How you doing, Bob?
I'm well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show. I'd love to share a little bit about the journey.
Okay, well that's good, because that's what I was going to ask you about, is the journey. I know you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, I don't think. So I know that as I do these interviews with entrepreneurs, I find that everybody has a journey that is there's a lot of failures, there's a lot of false starts, there's a lot of uncertainty and struggling to find the right path and things. And so everybody goes through that, and you don't see it. You see the success and things and say, boy, he's lucky. Well, luck doesn't have a lot to do with it sometimes. So anyway, it's great to hear these stories, and I look forward to hearing yours. So why don't you just start by telling us a bit about your journey. I know you didn't start in video production, but go ahead and give us your take on how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Graduated from college in '81, came out into quite a recession, and took a while to get a job. Got a job with a bank, worked with them for 6 or 7 years, was taking classes at night toward a CPA, just primarily because I thought it would help me understand finances better and maybe be better at what I was doing. Found out I didn't really like banking much. Moved over to a financial analyst position with a company that was part of the process of helping savings and loans, if you remember those, raise capital. So we would write a report and basically estimate their value in the public market. I did that for several years until the stock market dropped 500 points, I believe it was, and the IPO market went away, and so did our business. So that's when I decided to pursue the CPA a little more aggressively and finished up my courses, took the exam, crossed my fingers because they were going to raise the requirements the very next time, and that actually did pass. And so went with an accounting firm in a small town and did that for 4 years or so. Enjoyed it, but decided that doing tax returns and audits probably wasn't my life's work, and went as a controller for a company in Raleigh. So moved to the Raleigh area, and that was quite a challenge, very fast-paced, wore a lot of hats, and eventually decided that I'd like to hang out my own shingle. Had about a 3-foot stack of all kinds of franchise opportunities. Had no idea, but found one that I could afford, and also one that sounded pretty interesting and a little bit different from the financial market I've been in for about 20 years. So took the leap and went with a video franchise, and that's where I met you, Rory, as you recall. So I've had you as a mentor throughout this journey. So I've been in the video production business for about 26 years now, along with my wife, and we've had ups and downs, and it's been quite a ride, but we've learned a heck of a lot, and it's been certainly much more fun and interesting than the accounting world. Nothing against you accountants out there. You guys do a great job, but I've enjoyed this quite a bit.
Well, I can say that you're right. The video business is quite different than accounting. I am certainly no accountant.
I told somebody early on, yeah, I really had never had anybody get teary-eyed with joy over the tax return that I've done for them, but I have had that response from some of the video work that we've done over the years. So a little more rewarding, shall we say?
Yeah, and quite different. Yeah, quite different.
Yes.
Okay. So as you did this journey, I know as you know in video or in any other business, success is it's a very elusive thing. It's not something that everybody that goes in business achieves. Matter of fact, most don't. Most businesses don't last more than a year, and there's very few that even go 5 years. So, and how many years have you been in this? Did you say?
I believe we're in our 26th year now.
26. So, okay. All
yes.
right.
So we have weathered some ups and downs.
Oh, a youngster.
And we're talking about financial success today, but I will say that this opportunity has also enabled me to be successful in my personal life. Had a good family life. Linda and I have been married 31 years now. Have 2 grown boys, and now caring for my mother and my sister. So it's allowed me to do things other than just be successful in a business sense.
Right. Yeah, well, success in all phases of your life is important. And of course, if you have, I know, if you find a job or a profession that you like and can help you achieve success in those other areas, that's really, really important. Because if you hate what you're doing, it might give you financial success, but you'd be miserable. So, and I know some people like that, actually. But I
am not counting down the days to my retirement. I actually enjoy what I do right now, and looking forward to keeping the challenges going for a while.
Right. Well, that's great.
Even though I'm a ripe old 65. So.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, what would give me a few items that you think made the difference between you and maybe some others that came along and try to do what you're doing or attempted to do some part of what you're doing, because you do a lot of different things in video, actually. So you have a lot of different services. And, as I've seen, and it's not just our business, but any business, but competitors come and go, and they don't last. A lot of them don't last. And there's reasons for that. What do you think your longevity is attributed to, or at least in part?
Sure. I think one of the things, touched upon it before, is having great mentors. Getting into this group early on, which ultimately became Video Masters, was a huge help. I have told people many times I would say yes to potential job, and then I would hang up and go, oh no, I have no idea how to do this. This is outside of my realm of expertise. So I'd get on the phone and call up one of the Video Masters, and or I'd post something and somebody would call me, and they would spend sometimes hours on the phone just walking me through the process, telling me that here's how you do it, here, just step by step, helping me become a better person that was ultimately a craft. There's some art to it, but I think of it as a craft, and I think I understood some of the business aspects coming out of the banking and the CPA, etc. I knew some of those aspects, but video, I chose it, but I truthfully didn't know which end of the camera to point, so it was a learning process, and had great people to help me with that. and also help not just with the technical aspects, but also with the marketing and sales as well. So having great mentors, I think, is way up there on the list if you can find those people to help you along the way. And they're out there. People want to help. Sometimes the biggest challenge is to ask for that help.
That's true. That's true, actually. And you know, it's always good to follow in someone's footsteps that has done what you want to do. Therefore, first of all, you know it's possible because someone did it. Number one, and it's kind of like the 4-minute mile thing, you know, where nobody could do it until Bannister did it, and then once Bannister did it, then everybody started doing it. By following other people who have gone before you, it's like having a guide. It keeps you from getting lost, or keeps you on the right path anyway. It doesn't mean you have to do everything exactly the same, but it can sure be a big help. I found that to be true as well. And
these folks are actually in the same business, not in a competitive sense. They were in other areas. But it doesn't necessarily even have to be somebody in exactly the same business as you. It was very helpful to me, but I think even sometimes it's just having mentors who understand your business, maybe not in it, they can really help.
Did you have did you also have outside mentors that were, because you just mentioned not in this business, but did you have other like national personality kind of life coaches, things like, you know, Tony Robbins or Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar or any of those people that did you read any of the books and
Sure, I think those are helpful. Sometimes in this business, it's hard to maintain that positive attitude. And I always found that when I was getting a little down about things, sometimes just reading a book by somebody like that, I might pull a few ideas out of it, but at least as important was just the general positive attitude that I took from it. It was a big help. I never really did somebody's program, if you will, soup to nuts, but I enjoyed reading and looking at slightly different approaches to the sales and marketing aspects, and took, again, ideas and attitude from both.
And I would I more than imagine, because I'm in the same field as you, so I do know that it's constantly changing, and all business is, but this in particular is an ever-changing business. I mean, just in formats alone, it spans, you know, tremendous difference. So keeping up with the technology is important, and that's something you have to constantly learn and experiment with. And actually, I know that when I went into a couple of different pieces of equipment, I actually called you because you already had them.
So it has actually been very rewarding to sometimes take that opposite role and help out and be the mentor to somebody. But you know, it just happens in various fields. You get more deep into an area than somebody else may have gone, and so you find something out that can help others. And sometimes it's nice to pay that person back a little bit. So if it did help, I'm very glad for it.
Yeah, well, it certainly did. And so I'm smart enough to realize what I don't know. Someone else already knows it, I'm going to ask. But, you know...
that's actually sometimes a challenge for folks. And it's something you just have to get over.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I got over it.
You have to ask for help. Right?
Yeah. And you brought up a really good point, first off, right off the bat, is that success is more than just financial success. It's happiness in what you're doing. It means so much because it translates into every aspect of your life. And so this business that you're in, as you were saying, it has afforded you to have that kind of success in different phases of your life, and it's paid off big for you in that respect. So that's great. So if someone is thinking about going into business, maybe not video business, but any business, you know, besides telling them not to do it in Cary, What other advice would you have for people that are considering going in business, being that it has such a high failure rate?
Yeah. I think one of the things I've learned is that and this was a little bit different road for me. I knew the financial, but I didn't know the video elements of the video business. I really had to learn that from scratch and learn from everybody helping me along. But a lot of times people will start a business because they are really good at something and they do that thing very well. The problem is you have to wear so many additional hats to get that business going that may not be good fits for you. The marketing, the sales, you love building widgets or fixing or servicing certain things, but the other parts just make you cringe or you just don't want to spend your day doing. So that can kind of ruin the experience, if you will, or you ignore them and at your peril, your business suffers because of it. So I think probably even before you get out of the gate, you really need to think about how important that marketing and sales is to your ultimate success. So ignore those at your peril, basically. Those are going to be a big part either of your responsibilities or somebody that you really, really trust, because that is critical. You can do something wonderfully, but if people don't know you're there, that used to make me cringe when people would walk in and say, "I'm so glad I found you." I was never trying to be hard to find. I always wanted to be as easy to find as possible, but if you're not doing that constantly and letting more people be aware of your services and the quality of that service, you're going to have a tough time of it.
Well, that was said very well. There's a book called The E-Myth Revisited. Actually, the second printing of it's called E-Myth Revisited, and the premise is exactly what you were just laying out. And it was Michael Gerber, I think, wrote it. And anyway, and his thing was, he used an example of a person that made pies, and she loved making pies or cakes, and so she decided she was going to open a bakery. Well, she opened the bakery, but then as she was in business a short time, she was so busy doing the marketing and the accounting and the ordering and the customer service, she didn't have time to bake. And never thought about that, and that's something that you have to really, really consider, because you got to wear a lot of hats, like you said.
You do, and you have to know when to put the different hats on. You may just so enjoy that servicing that you go, well, I know the backlog's getting down there a little bit, but I think we're okay. And all of a sudden you turn around and there's nothing in the pipeline, and you really have to scramble to get things built back up. And if you take that cycle too deep, sometimes it's just hard to come back up that hill. So you just constantly need to be either wearing all those hats or have people that you trust in those roles helping you out, whether they be part of your company or, in this day and age, sometimes you can outsource some of those roles. Yeah, but it has to be part of your business.
World's changed a lot nowadays. I mean, you can do so many things nowadays that you didn't have. We didn't have the opportunity to do back when we got started.
But, right. If I may tell just a quick, short one, we used to have conferences that Rory would lead along with another fellow, Virgil Miller, and a big part of those conferences, which was going for several days, and at least a major chunk of one day, was talking about your yellow page ad and how important it was to get that right for the upcoming year. The size, the color, the wording, just everything about it. So yeah, things have changed a little bit.
Yeah, just a little, just a little bit. I remember doing doing presentations on doing marketing and everything, and you do go to the next year and you're trying, and it was not a problem to say, what are we going to talk about now, because there was always so much of a change from the last year of things to talk about, and even in marketing and stuff, how things in market had changed and new things had opened up and everything. And now we're talking AI, which is is amazing, and it's also scary. Could be scary, but it can be incredibly useful. Of course, the internet is tremendous. So all these new things are or tools that we can use, and I have watched you over the years, and very, very impressed with what you've been able to do.
Well, I want to touch on that, the not the impressed part, but actually what you were saying. Those are tools, the AI, the internet, etc. But you really, if you want to be successful, there's probably businesses where you can just one-off and keep selling to new people constantly. And I'm sure there are business models based upon that. But in a lot of businesses, you really want that long-term customer. That 80-20 rule, where 80% of your or 20% of your customers represent 80% of your business.
Right.
I've seen that happen in our business several times over the course of the years, and it's wonderful to see it grow as we get deeper relationships with.
I was just going to say, it boils down to relationship with your client. You gotta cultivate a true working relationship with them, where there's a bond of trust there, and
Exactly.
and that can just open so many doors, not just between the two companies, but also referrals and everything too. But it can
One of the
lead.
biggest hats is customer service, and understanding that hat and the communication, and as you say, earning the trust from your customer. So we really focus on that, and again, we've seen it happen several times. That 80-20 rule is just, we build, and then 2 times in our past, for no fault of ours, it's just their business model changed, or something huge changed in the business that we were working with, and it disappeared.
Been there, done that.
Overnight. So it's wonderful. You want to build and deepen those relationships, but part of the whole process is also constantly looking for that new customer, the new people, to keep the business fresh, and to start deepening new relationships. So, the 80-20 rules is probably generally right, but it's a scary place to be, and you constantly need to be thinking about, how can I broaden my base so that I am protected and protecting the people that work for me and my family, and not putting all of those eggs into that one basket.
That's very true, and I feel like I always try to be expanding my customer base, but I also kept in mind that if I could find other avenues to help my current customers, like you were just saying, by deepening the relationships, so you're more of a service to them in different ways, then it's easier to expand a existing customer than it is to find a new one. So it's a lot of times it's cheaper to do that. But you do have to keep looking, because you're absolutely right. If you put all your eggs in a basket and that something happens to that basket, you're sunk, at least temporarily. And that's a bad place to be. I've seen that happen too. And matter of fact, it's happened to me at least twice.
If you've been in business long enough, I think you've seen that happen. Again, more than likely no fault of your own. You've worked really hard on the relationship, but something at that other business changes, and bye-bye, there it goes.
Yep.
So you have to constantly be working on that and making sure you're not just wearing too few hats. Keep those hats dusted off and ready to go, because marketing and sales will always help protect your business.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on today. Is there anything that you would like to parting words of wisdom that you would like to leave for anybody considering getting in your type of business or any business? Anything else you'd like to say?
I think we've covered a lot of ground. I was going to throw in the observation on the video side that it turns out that video is a nice to have, but not a need to have. And so, you might want to think about those things when you're thinking about going into business. Is this something that's going to do well in a down market? Or is it something that is really going to roar when things are good and the tap really gets shut off when ultimately the recessions that are always going to happen do happen? Are you going to be able to ride that through? Right. So the type of business makes a difference too. Ours is a little more feast or famine, it seems like, in some ways, but there are certain aspects of our business that can mitigate that. So you need to think about those things as well. Is there a business line that kind of goes counter the market that I can get into that will help? And we've done that a couple of times with.
Well, one thing I hear about from these just different entrepreneurs that I talk with is one of the pieces of advice is to dig the well before you get thirsty. And so you start preparing for hard times before the hard times hit. And that seems like a no-brainer, but you get busy and you'd be surprised. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And one of my favorite sayings is by John Maxwell, and his was, "You can pay the price now, or you can pay the price later, but you'll always pay the price."
Very true.
Very true. So, okay, well, thank you so much for being our guest today, and
thank you,
I
Rory.
wish you a lot of continued success. And if you want to connect with Bob, his information will be with this video. So, thanks, Bob.
Been a pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. And if you have a success story that you'd like to tell, we'd love to talk to you about it, and you can get in contact with us at successtracks.com, and we would be more than happy to discuss having you on the program. So with that, we're out.